So from what I know before going into this, Madvillain is a collaborative project produced by Madlib and featuring MF Doom. It was released in 2003 and is still highly regarded as one of the best hip-hop albums of all time by the people in my comment sections, the people on my subreddit, the people in my DMs, and that longevity and timelessness is very promising. Apparently we have a variety of styles to listen to today, ranging from funk and jazz to psychedelic beats and dark hip-hop. It has also come to my attention that there are a plethora of samples in the production from classics that I've probably never heard of, so do me a favor and when you hear them, call them out in the comments, educate me, backseat listen for me, please. And without further ado, let's check it out.
As luck would have it, one of America's two most powerful villains of the next decade.
We're greeted with a nostalgic vintage collage of strained, distressed voices, like what you'd hear in dramatic vintage Hollywood movies. The over-exaggerated, cartoonish sampling stands out above subtle beats at varying swinging tempos.
Popularity. Audiences
Oh my God.
to hate. The importance of the villain was not overlooked. Of course, one of the worst of all was the Madvillain. They had no code of ethics.
I kept searching for something to latch onto amidst the chaos. The entire album is abstract and unstructured until it's time to pay attention.
60 degrees.
Oh my
Similar
God.
sequences could not be defeated.
I think I was expecting a thread to follow into this track, some kind of resolve or payoff. Instead, we've been thrown into a completely different universe. I'd better get used to that.
Tick faster. That'll be the hour they knock the slick blaster. Dick Dastardly and Muttley with sick laughter. A gunfight and they come to cut the mix master. ICE.
The obvious highlight of this track is the lyrical work of MF Doom. The track is short, only a minute and 58 seconds in runtime, but it packs a punch.
It's like the place get like, oh yeah. It's like they know what's about to happen. And they hold the mic in your attention like two swords. Or either one with two blades on it. Hey you, don't touch the mic.
It's pretty dense. The wordplay is impressive, using multiple references to complete the punchlines. It's a level of wit I wish I could keep up with.
Slip like Freudian, your first and last step to playing yourself like accordions.
Oops. Interesting. Okay, very interesting. Also, I do want to say, I remember in my Mr. Morale reaction, that was the first time I heard someone say sword, like sword with a W. But now I'm seeing it all over the place, and everyone was like, what? Very interesting beat though. Get more cheese than Doritos, Cheetos, or Fritos. Slip like Freudian. And that accordion sample throughout the entire thing tied this line in pretty nicely. Oh, very interesting. What I know about Madlib is that he's well known for his crate digging abilities in finding obscure samples to throw in throughout the album to create a completely new soundscape. Doom's rhyme scheme in Meat Grinder has a halo of its own. It's not just at the traditional tail end of the lines, but throughout each line as well. It all feels very stream of consciousness.
Slow dancer, hopeless romancer, dopest flow stanzas. Yes, no, villain, metal face to Destro, guess so, still incredible.
The ostinato of that steel guitar has an interesting slant to it that reminds me of Hawaiian music. It stands out against the lower frequencies of the bass line, as well as Doom's voice range.
The best host doing bong hits on the roof in the West Coast. He's at it again, mad at the pen.
It was only while rereading the lyrics that I started to understand the train of thought, but it didn't feel like it was going anywhere specific.
Jeez. Ladies and gentlemen.
After we leave the Meat Grinder, we visit Madvillain's Bistro Bed and Breakfast Bar and Grill, Cafe Lounge on the water. A bit of a mouthful, but the service is to die for.
How do you do?
Live on the beats. We have the one and only Madlib.
How do you do?
We also have King Ghidorah on the mix.
Okay, I already knew that King Ghidorah was an alias for MF Doom because someone mentioned it in the Melt My Eyes Here future reaction. He was referenced, but so far the production in this is crazy. Oh, all 4 of these tracks so far have just been all over the place. I love it.
And I'm your host. Just lay back and have a good time, enjoy the music, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay, forget for a second that Madvillain are Madvillains and that your host is literally the supervillain.
How doom hold heat and preach non-violence. He about to start the speech, come on, silence.
The instrumental is probably my favorite off the album, to the point where I looked up if there were official instrumentals released, and there are.
Folks leave out the show feeling truly enlightened. They say the villain been spitting enough lightning, the rock shock the boogie down to Brighton. Alright then.
I love that verse.
Smack them in the face, let them taste pride. Fakes drop, hit the washed up like the shorelines. Do or die, ride how the tip return.
This one is so fun. Lyrically speaking, Doom and MED paint a picture from beginning to end that they are showcasing their skills at the podium. We, the audience, watch captivated until they tell us, meeting adjourned. I love this energy.
Then come out to show them, come out to show them, come out to show them, come out to show them.
And I don't even remember what I googled to find this, but I found a Tom York Boiler Room London DJ set where he closed with America's Most Blunted. This timely crossover is really throwing me for a loop.
Listening to music while stoned is a whole new world. Most parents consider this
God.
important second only to sex. And grass will change your music what happens.
Bro! This track feels so full, which is emphasized after the EQ range widens here. Oh my god! We just listened to Hip Hop 50 Volume 1 by DJ Premier on the Patreon, and this is really giving me those vibes because it has the turntable scratches to a T. So good.
Some rather baggies, other like they cracks and vows. Catch a tag, roll a bag of swag in a black and mouth. See twist optimal, just the raw leaf part. The list top goal, bust before beef starts. Someday pray that he will grow a farm barn full. Recent research show it's not so darn harmful. Sometimes you might need to detox. It can help you with your rhyme flow and your beatbox.
The mad villain killing
Quasimodo's high pitch, intermixed with the low tones of Madlib's voice, really remind me of similar techniques used to depict a state of intoxication. The voice, the like higher pitched voice and then the lower voice really reminds me of Kendrick, but Quasimodo has been brought up a couple of times. I wonder what the identity is there. A lot of people associate Quasimodo with, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but it's spelled with a T. So I don't know. Am I missing something?
I got the fat sack. All day I hunt it. America's Most Blunted.
Oh God. Considering how this entire track is destigmatizing their marijuana use rather than evoking fear or uncertainty, it's a lot more playful, bold, and brash.
It's a known fact that grass increases creativity from 8 to 11 times. In fact, everyone finds that they're more creative stoned than straight. So remember...
M-A-R-I-J-U? A-J-U-A-N-A. Mara?
Not a fan of this static.
Marijuana.
A nice breather from the busyness of the prior track, Madlib hypnotizes us with a short and sweet instrumental. The sonic stabs at the beginning of the track bring us back to the supervillainesque theming. But the chorus and sampling section here are so brilliantly pieced together, the contrast shines. Oh my god. Oh, sorry, I forgot to put the lyrics back up. MF Doom's vocals lag a second behind the instrumental, double-tracked with mistakes left in. It makes me feel like I'm a little loopy, a little out of it. The beat is slow and steady. If it were any faster, it would probably lose me. Oh, that's so perfect. We end with another soundbite in the outro, revisiting the villain and reminding us of his goals.
With aspirations to dominate the universe.
This makes me want to watch, like, I don't know if it's in the same mood or vibe, but just thinking of superheroes, it makes me want to watch Invincible. But yeah, since we didn't have the lyrics up, I was wondering what BI stands for. I know what Air Out means thanks to Kendrick now. All of these have been pretty easy to follow so far, which is really nice for me because I'm very slow. And there's kind of like a language barrier almost for hip hop and references that I can't really follow, but this has been okay. This has been okay so far. Production is also amazing. So fun.
Villain get the money like curls. They just trying to get a nut like squirrels in his mad world.
We get to see Doom's creative flow, his storytelling, and a glimpse of his life growing up. It was rough, and he resorted to making money in villainous ways.
Now let's try and get something to eat. Then he turned 4 and started flowing to the poor. That's about when he first started going raw. Spliff made him swore he saw heaven, he was 7. Yup, you know it, growing up too fast.
There's an immediate boost of energy with these smooth chord progressions. The steel drums and organ bring you back to the relaxed tropical soundscape painted in a couple of previous tracks. Oh man. Madlib shared that he had 4 tons of vinyl in his collection just from crate digging, and that he's been sued a lot throughout his career. Holy shit. He freestyles his sampling work, learning from his favorite producer, Jay Dilla, to stay loose, keep it raw, and bang your drums out sometimes.
The villain took on many forms.
Let he who was without sin cast the first stone.
Doom breaks the fourth wall to reference Madlib. We have a beat switch immediately to something more jazzy before returning to the main old-school instrumental. Are those programmed?
Don't mind me, I wrote this rhyme lightly off of 2 or 3 heinies.
That jump. It makes it so much more engaging, a showcase of their playfulness throughout the creation of the album.
Now hook me with 2 apple pies and a small fries, all rise. So far odd as a ruple, so raw, break it down and make quadruple. Keep it low key, known to pull a okie dokie. Silly goose, Doom is too jokey. Damn, he could really use a room or a whole key.
Throughout the track, we're reminded of the villain's financial goals and confidence in attaining them, likening them to a metaphor for Doom and Madlib's abilities, artistry, and mastery.
A muscle-bound karate expert concealed a razor edge which could lop the head off of a marble statue once propelled. With notorious world takeover schemes and the most magnificent gadgets imaginable, villains rapidly grew healthy cash flow. It is explained by a more comedic villain, the bald-headed Doom. This villain rose to incredible new heights of money-making, revenge, and extortion. Such was the magnitude of the typical villain.
This is no answer. Very well, then. Adieu to the death.
Oh man, okay, we're about halfway through now, but I really liked Money Folder. That was really good. I realized I'm not giving much insight on these and how I'm feeling, but really impressed so far. I think I'm gonna take a little water break though.
Today is the shadow of tomorrow. Today is the present future of yesterday.
Oh.
Yesterday is the shadow of today. The darkness of the past is yesterday.
Oh.
And the light of the past is yesterday. The days of yesterday
Quasimodo's
are all
the person. From what I could find, Quasimodo was developed because Madlib was unhappy with hearing his own voice back on his recordings. So it's nice to hear his unpitched voice in the second verse.
Anger, frustration. There was no one to talk to on planet Earth to understand. You set up a power in their head.
The light of the past is a light which was. The wisdom of the past is a light of the past.
The track uses just one repetitive note throughout, building tension and spotlighting the musical ad-lib sprinkled in. We finally take a deep breath, but we jump right back into the single note loop.
Which is to be the wisdom of the future. The light of the future casts the shadows of tomorrow.
Affect their vibrations. For the better, of course.
Sun Ra.
Officially ended. We work on the other side of time.
Wow. This one, Shadows of Tomorrow, it feels very cinematic. It feels like it would be a monologue in a movie or something. I like it though. While previous tracks used vintage sound bites to set the scene of the villain committing crimes or getting money, now they're used to exaggerate this critical mission.
She just knew she was cute. It's in her own best interests, less stress. Hit her with the do you need a mint test. It's been a long day.
It sounds even more cartoonish than I found the illest villains, further exaggerating and establishing the track's humor. It's just a fun track and a silly scenario. I love it.
Yeah! Okay, let's go. You know what to do.
The official adventures of the Magnificent.
That's so funny. You know, dental health is important. If you generally have bad breath, okay, no one's asking for this advice, but if you generally have bad breath, see a dentist. Usually there's something underlying, like gum disease or what are they called? Tonsil stones, you know? Anyway. This one probably has my favorite Doom work across the entire album. I love the drums.
The rest is empty with no brain, but the clever nerd, the best MC with no chain you ever heard.
The word selection and delivery throughout the entire verse are just so smooth, and the rhyme scheme is incredibly consistent. It feels intimidating, with similar techniques demonstrated in Meat Grinder.
Bread and butter moist, man, please. Not enough tracks, hot enough black, or just too hot to handle. You got blue sandals, who shot you, who got you, new spots to vandal. This is it, make no mistakes, where my nigga go? Figaro.
From what I gather, MF Doom isn't really a storyteller in the same way that other artists we've listened to on this channel tell stories. Instead, he tends to present vignettes in abstract and fluid ways, showcasing his rap, wordsmithing, referencing, and visualization skills.
Pass her, stick a bubble gum. I like ice cream, we could skip the wedding. Have a nice dream, she only let him stick her head in.
There were a couple of like children's rhymes that were thrown in here. Patty Cake, Miss Mary Mac. Oh, this one, the flow was so consistent throughout, you know, like hypnotic almost. I was just reading along.
Mad villain. Jump on the track with the hardcore hustle. With the busload of niggas, this time we brought y'all muscle.
Now we have a testimony from Wild Child, vouching for Mad Villain. He's essentially their hype man.
Went to hell and back. Saw Delta selling crack. In fact, had to come back with the brother with the mask by yelling black. Predictable steps. Who's the one to rock up a party with the vigilance urge?
In the context of the album, the song is not too memorable for me, with the exception of the outro, which I fear will haunt me forever. Stop it, this fucking caption. Screams with the sound of someone getting a mic pushed straight through their still beating heart while moaning orgasmically. Thank you for that. You didn't have to do that. You really didn't have to do that.
Wreak havoc, beat this mad traffic.
I really love this one. The beat is strong, and it's clearly more of a social commentary than the previous tracks on the album. It's ironic that the police are supposed to protect, but end up becoming a threat, especially to marginalized communities.
The chopped off heads of Leviathan, my friend, I call them strangers. Anybody talk to them end up in some danger.
The sample. The interlude reminds me of a quote by Jean-Baptiste Alphonse Carr: "The more things change, the more they stay the same."
Obviously, they came to portion up his fortune. Sounds to me like that old robbery extortion.
The second verse talks more about political warfare on a global scale. It's ordinary people who suffer the most, while leaders and decision makers come out unscathed. Was I supposed to be following these samples, by the way?
And everything looked black. But I carried on.
I remember seeing a comment from someone that MF Doom was so unmatched that he needed to create his own competition. Victor Vaughn and many others. I love this sample that's looping in the back.
A teenage love that didn't feel no hurt yet. You could have broke it off, ended it and dipped. And if you spoke soft, we could have still preserved the friendship. And just to think, I used to be proud of you, and you had some real good power.
Oh my god. The instrumental has a lot of soul in it. It has an old school nostalgic ambiance. The steady rhythm of the beat is incredible.
The time I hit your mom's off, I told her knock it off, but she had to set the rocket off. Ain't enough room in this town. When you see Tin Head, tell him be ducking down. I'm not romping around. He better be ready and prepared to be stomped in the ground.
Oh my god. Wait, that is so sad. We could have still preserved the friendship. I don't know. In the second verse, it sounds like he wasn't as faithful either. Victor Vaughn. Oh, MF Doom performs as Victor Vaughn, one of the many aliases and personality he has. That's gonna be confusing. So we have Victor Vaughn, King Ghidorah, MF Doom. I don't know. It is really nice to have some feminine energy on the album. I love the I love the reverb and the pulling of her voice. Such a cool effect. Also, sorry, I just ate a candy. Stacey Epps shared on Instagram Live the spontaneity of the crafting of Madvillainy. It seems like it was built as effortlessly as it sounds. She recorded some freestyle, and Madlib processed and resampled it to sound as trippy as it does now. I feel like in the spirit of the song, it would definitely evoke a different feeling in a moody room, but with more people, like smoke session, you know what I mean? I have to sneeze really bad. This instrumental feels foreboding, wicked, sinister, with a hint of possible revenge. I just wish it was longer, instead of fading out once things start getting interesting. Oh. I think this one's my favorite instrumental off of I think there were 2 or 3 other ones.
Should've let your chick hold your sick glow. Plus nobody couldn't do nothing once he let the brick go. And I know that's a bunch of snow. The beat is so butter. Peep the slow cutter as he utter the calm flow. Don't talk about my mom, yo. Sometimes he rhyme quick, sometimes he rhyme slow, or vice versa. Whip up a slice of nice
this is so good.
Hit it on the first try.
Oh my god, sorry. I love the flowing motion of the instrumental, moving from high to low, switching between instruments, beat drops, and another repetitive note, drawing tension. Like this. All caps. Bada 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 bada. Much of the concept writing for Madvillainy was initially freestyle, which makes his lyricism, punchlines, and entendres that much more impressive to me.
Got troubles, madman never go like snot bubbles.
Oh. It's a beautiful outro. The introduction sounds like a radio broadcast sound signature or a network identifier, indicating the start of a new program, or maybe in this case, a new mindset.
It's going to be a great day today to get some fresh air like a stray on a straightaway. Hey you, got a light? Nah, a Bud Light. Early in the morning, face crud from like a mud fight. Doom, are you pondering what I'm pondering? Yes.
In general, the lines of this track are so witty, clever, and iconic.
My posse's on Broadway like Mama, I want to sing. What is jalapenos? Get it like a whooping when you holler at your seniors. Dollar, he can overhear the hashish fiender. He just came from over there, the grass is greener. Last wish, I wish I had 2 more wishes, and I wish they fixed the door to the Matrix's mad goods.
I love the way that Doom uses humor to break and switch to another rhyme scheme in this stanza. So clever.
On a diamond mine grind. She was dumb fine, but not quite the type that you might want to wine and dine. It's easy as pie, 3.14. One more, one false move, and they done for.
This is the perfect track to wrap up the album. All the cheering and clapping make me feel like I'm watching a live performance. I couldn't help but follow along.
The drop top poppy known as the grimy, limey, slimy, try me, blind me. Simply smashing in a fashion that's timely. Mad villain dashing in a beat rhyme crime spree. We rock the house like rock and roll. Got more soul than a sock with a hole.
In the end, the villains win, and will continue on their merry ways. The instrumental is, to my ears, a perfect musical representation of the closing credits.
Had your fans saying, please make me a dub. You're blind in the wine zone, leave your mind blown. When he shine with the 9, he's a rhinestone. Cowboy. At the end of the first verse, there's even a break from the instrumental, with the crowd applauding for an encore. And the second verse keeps going. Goonie Google for the snipes to place. At least a track listing, bone print typeface. Stop for a year, come back with thumbtacks, pop for the beer. Where hip-hop sharecroppers used to wear flip-flops, now rare gear.
Rhinestone Cowboy sounds familiar. There's a popular country song by the same name that I've definitely heard before. Doom may have found inspiration in that song's message of perseverance and strength in the face of adversity, and decided to interpolate some of those ideas into his own work. And in this case, I think the rhinestones are likened to the shiny parts of Doom's character, such as his mask or a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
Rhinestone Cowboy.
I'm assuming he's referring to this mask.
Or relentlessly horrifying. Collectively,
Madlib's production is stellar, as usual, full of soul through a repetitive rising note. It leaves me wanting more, but instead we get a closing soundbite that completes the album's comic book feel. I know it's applause, but it sounded like it was kind of going to the beat. Anyway, what a strong ending. Some artists have very strong final tracks, and then some of them just leave me wanting more. I feel like this was a really great conclusion. Overall, such a good album. I loved the humor sprinkled throughout, and it just sounded like a lot of fun to make. The production by Madlib, really, really good. I have to sneeze again. Fuck. I don't know if I'll revisit this as a full album listen, like many of the albums that we have listened to on this channel. I understand that there's a consistency with, like, being a supervillain or, you know, the personas that they bring up randomly throughout the album, but it doesn't feel like there's like a flow to it otherwise. It's very cohesive, but it's not experience, you know? But there are a couple that I think that I will revisit. All Caps for sure. That one was so good. A couple of them from the front end of the album. I don't know, there's a really nice sample. I'll have to listen to it again to see if I can remember which one it was, but loved it. Loved this album. Thank you for recommending it to me. And I am aware, just based off of comments and things like that, that MF Doom has sadly passed away. But I can say without a shadow of a doubt that his music will live on forever. At least from what I've heard today, it does sound, his voice, his flow, his wordplay, it's just all very timeless. A very unique project. I really, really enjoyed it. So let me know if there's anything else you would like me to take a listen to. I think that food was also requested a lot. And apparently there's a cookbook to go along with that, with mac and cheese, which... Big fan. But until then, stay tuned, stay safe, and be kind. Patrons know what's coming next. And